Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Traptrix. Now it's a deck I haven't actually picked up on in quite a while, but it's actually really fun. And honestly, I still see this deck as really competitively viable, simply because it's a trap deck. Like this deck is really good at stunning your opponent and just basically has some pretty insane combos where you essentially just get to generate a lot of advantage. And one of the cool things about Traptrix as a whole is that they're essentially like immune to traps, well, mainly the Link and Xyz monsters, whereas the main deck monsters are only immune to hold trap cards, which I mean for obvious reasons. But yeah, like Traptrix, it does a lot of cool stuff. I definitely like this deck a lot, so I figured I'd just share with you guys what I came up with this time around. And yeah, let's go and get started. All right, and if you guys can see, I do have a Traptrix playmat, which is pretty nice. But anyway, starting off with the main deck, playing 3 copies of Traptrix Vermilio. Definitely one of the best starters of the entire deck. Searches out any normal trap card that has hole in the name. So yeah, Vermilio is pretty good. It also has a mandatory effect where if it's special summon, you get to pop 1 spell or trap on the field. So, or at least 1 on your opponent's side of the field. So yeah, definitely a great way just to basically just keep popping cards on your opponent's side of the board. Especially if you have anti-spell fragrance, which I do play on the side. This card just becomes completely absurd because, like, yeah, not only does your opponent have to set their spells, but you get to keep popping them in the meantime as well. Next up, 3 copies of Traptrix Mantis. If this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand. And if this card is, once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 set spell or trap card you control, return it back to your hand. So a good way to dodge cards like Cosmic Cyclone. And then you do have the option to set another spell or trap from your deck, from your hand. I'm sorry, not from your deck. But still, yeah, Traptrix Mantis is still pretty good, because sometimes you don't want to lose your best cards, Next up, 3 copies of Traptrix Pudica. This was actually this card was actually printed in the structure deck. This card is normal summon. You could add a Traptrix the Traptrix field spell, and also this card is special summon. It does have like a form of disruption where you get to banish 1 monster your opponent controls, and then during the next standby phase, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the next standby phase it gets to come back. That might sound like a big disadvantage, but if you do it correctly, you should. This actually might help you enable an OTK as well if you have the right cards to facilitate that. But overall, Pudica definitely a great card to have. Next up, 2 copies of Traptrix Dionea. Probably one of your later normal summons, but overall you mostly use it for the special summoning effect. But if this card is normal summon, you can target 1 Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode, and then when this card is special summoned, you can target 1 whole normal trap in your graveyard, set it to your side of the field, but banish it during the next end phase if it's still on the field. But overall, like, you should be able to use it overall, so like never really fear of losing that card for good. Next up, 2 copies of Traptrix Arachnocampa. This is basically gonna end our Traptrix line, but unaffected by whole normal traps like all the other ones. The first time each set spell or set card in your spell and trap card zone would be destroyed, it is not destroyed. Also, during the main phase, if you control a Traptrix monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card. And of course, this does lock you into to summoning a from your extra deck, except for insect or plant monsters, but that really shouldn't affect you whatsoever because that is basically what this deck is, insect and plant. So, and again, it's just the extra deck. So the main deck is perfectly fine. Speaking of which, the next card we're going to be playing is 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. As long as you perform a Link summon, this card literally is an easy special summon. Becomes a level 4 on special summon, and it summons another copy of itself, which also becomes a level 4, so great for rank 4 plays. So yeah, Parallel Exceed is great for this strategy. Alright, so that's it for our main line of monsters. For hand traps, just pretty self-explanatory. 3 copies of Ash, one of the best hand traps. Same with 3 copies of Imperm. Just a standard lineup. And that's about it. For spells, we don't run too many spells, but for the ones that we are playing 3 copies of Prosperity. This card has gotten much cheaper now that we got the Rarity Collection, so for those who don't have their Pot of Prosperities, now you have actually an easy way to get it. I've had these for quite a while, so I'm not too disappointed. 1 Traptrix Garden. This is the field spell I was talking about, which you search off of a Pudica. This card gives you an additional normal summon for a Traptrix monster, so really nice. And the first time each insect or plant monster you control would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. And you can banish one monster you control, special summon one Traptrix monster from your hand or your graveyard. And of course, you can only use each effect of Traptrix Garden once per turn. So yeah, definitely a great card overall. I was actually thinking about running this at 2, but I'm still debating on that. But the last spell we're going to be playing is one Called by the Grave, just a standard way to deal with certain hand traps. And that's it for the spells. For traps, and we do run quite a lot of them, 3 copies of Traptrix Holotea. This is probably the best card in the entire deck. It's a trap monster, and you can activate it on the turn set so long as you discard a normal trap. So pretty nice. It becomes a Traptrix monster on the field, and of course this does help you trigger your Sero quite effectively, as a matter of fact. So, and it's also cool that it's a level 4 monster on the field, so another good way just to go into like any form of rank 4 play that you need. Next up, 2 copies of Floodgate Trap Hole. Definitely one of the best trap hole cards we have, aside from Holotea, of course. 2 copies of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. I'm actually thinking about bumping this down to 1, especially because I'm still waiting on my copy of Banishing Trap Hole, so that's one of the things about it. And Banishing Trap Hole is a really crazy card. It basically banishes face down any monster that with 1,500 or more type points that was special summoned. But again, I don't have that card currently, so I got to make do with what's available. But I do have another card that I decided to tech in, which is actually going to be one of my one-ofs, 1 copy of Chain Hole. So what this card does is that when your opponent activates a monster effect in response to a card or effect activation, negate that opponent's effect, then your opponent can banish 1 card from your hand, or from their hand or deck with the same original name as that negated card. If they do not, then you can banish 1 random card from their hand. This is pretty crazy because, like, especially if it's a card that's, like, for example, limited. Let's just go with tier limits as an example. So, like, let's say they activate a Sheeran or something in response to something else. Then, yeah, like, you basically just Chain Hole. They have no choice but to try to... They can't banish it because Sheeran is limited. Same thing with Hoffness or Merly. And then they have to banish a card from their hand. So, yeah, Chain Hole is pretty nice. Next up, 1 Time Space Trap Hole, 1 Gravedigger's Trap Hole, and to round up the rest of our traps, 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This is probably the only deck that can actually main deck this naturally, because, like, especially if we end up going second, this forces a lot of things to happen. So, like, if your opponent has to activate something in response to Evenly Match, that's a good way just to deal with that. And then not only that, but it's also a great equalizer, because, like, then you're free to basically set up your own board and just, like, yeah, just be ready to pressure your opponent even further. So yeah, Evenly Matched is pretty devastating. And I'm really happy that it got reprinted in this structure deck. All right, so for the extra deck, it's pretty self-explanatory. Naturally, you're going to be playing 3 copies of Traptrix Sarah. This is the most important one of them all. If a normal trap is activated, you can special summon a Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name than the ones you currently control. And if your Traptrix monster's effect is activated, you can set 1 whole normal trap directly from your deck. So yeah, like, this card always activates in resolution of one or the other. 1 Traptrix Oedipus, one of the best ways to not only negate cards, but it also can help you facilitate an OTK, because it does get pretty big based on if you have a Traptrix monster. Well, let's see, yeah. This links some cards unaffected by trap effects. All Traptrix monsters you control gain 1,000 attack points while you have a normal trap in your grave. So yeah, and again, this applies to all Traptrix monsters. So, like, not only does it get big, but all the other ones you have available also get pretty big. So yeah, basically what's that card? Madolche Chateau on legs. Next up, 1 Alsa. Our deck is primarily Earth attributes, so yeah, why not, right? I am still running the Aroma Seraphie line. 1 Jasmine, 1 Riki Queen Strina, and finally 1 Sacred Tree Beast. Like, the combo that performs this is really nuts, because, like, not only do you get a monster that basically negates anything depending on what materials it have, but it also can replenish materials based on what type of effect you activate. So yeah, Sacred Tree Beast, definitely something to consider. And if you don't like this line, you could always play the Therion line, which is pretty good too. So, like, it's really all about personal preference. I'm playing the 1 Rafflesia, 1 Penguicula. I know you might be thinking, like, why not run 2 Rafflesia? Well, I cut 1 for right now because I wanted to test out a new card. that came out a while back, but yeah, I'll get to that momentarily. One Alamaris, pretty good for the late game. One Baguska. One Dweller. Dweller is just crazy right now because there's a lot of decks that facilitate the graveyard. So Dweller's definitely not a card you want to sleep on. One Time Thief Redoer. And the new card that I was talking about actually came back from Cyberstorm Axis. One Baromet, the Sacred Sheep Shrub. So basically this card, what this card does is that you can detach one material from this card, target one normal trap in your graveyard, place it to the bottom of the deck, and then you get to draw one card. If a normal trap card is activated, except during damage step, you can detach one material from an Xyz monster you control, and if you do, special summon one level 4 monster from your hand. So like, I mostly like it for the fact that it does actually have draw power for you, and actually a pretty sizable defense power too, so that's pretty nice. But again, I'm still kind of playtesting this card. If I don't end up liking it, I'm definitely going to bring in a second Rafflesia, because like Rafflesia is one of the best rank 4s you could be playing in this deck. So yeah, again, I'm just like dabbling mostly. All right, for the side deck, playing 3 copies of Nib, just for combo. 2 Lightning Storm and a Harpy's Feather Duster, because Lightning Storm, for whatever odd reason, is semi-limited. I did mention I am on 3 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, because, this plus Myrmelio can be pretty devastating. 3 D Barrier. This is primarily for, like, any synchro deck, like Vanadium, or if I'm going up against, like, fusion decks, like Branded, definitely want to call those. Against Pearly, you want to call well, actually, no, you don't really want to call Xyz, because we do play Xyz ourselves, so, but, like, there are other ways to deal with it. I mean, we are on Anti-Spell Fragrance as well, so that's another thing to consider. And of course, 3 copies of Judgment if I need to go the extra mile, just to, make sure like my field is protected, or if there's like a problematic monster that I don't want to be summoned, like E Pearly Nor. Yeah, I definitely don't want that to come off. So yeah. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.